Hello, sweet friends, and welcome to The Way Through. I am so incredibly grateful to have you, of course, joining in today for another deep and very meaningful conversation. Today, we're talking about trauma, of course, which seems to be the running theme, of course, as you're joining me on the show. We take a look at how our wounded stories, how we can transform our wounded stories into supporting us to really have a life of ease and taking back what is our co creative power within our lives. We look at altering paradigms and belief systems and transforming the relationship that we have with ourselves and, of course, all of life. I'm so grateful to have this chance again to really talk with you about how our wounded stories, that narrative and the past can sometimes define what we believe is possible for ourselves, that the profound impact of those experiences, what they have on our self-worth, they lead us to feeling not only that we're unworthy, but that we're not maybe lovable or we don't belong in the world. And so those are two of the most fundamental of our human needs. And so irregardless of whether your story is wrapped up in childhood or it's wrapped up more in the adulthood, the experience really creates these deep-seated beliefs about ourselves that really suggest that we are undeserving of love, of success, of connection. And so today's conversation is really going to help to take those internalized messages of shame and guilt and inadequacy and bring light to them so that you can be more empowered as you continue your journey for wholeness, health, and healing. Today, I'm so incredibly grateful to have joining me an incredible woman's advocate and empowerment coach, international best-selling author, and the CEO of the SWOT Institute, Crystal Andrus Morissette, who has been a change maker, a leader, and honestly, I can go back to the beginning days of my own career where she was so influential on helping me to really step into what she refers to as my woman energy. So, Crystal, thank you so much for being here, and I'm welcoming you to the show. I'm so excited for our conversation here today, and thank you for taking time. I know your schedule is super
Yay!
busy, so I love that you get to be here with me.
Yay. Thank you, Bonnie. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Crystal, you have an incredible, I mean, you've been having incredible impact on the world. Your the SWAT Institute, is global. You've been empowering women for, 15 plus years, I think, if I'm
30.
correct in that. 30?
30.
Okay, 30 years. See, I've
But you
known
know
you for
what? I'm
15 plus.
55 this year. I'm 55 this year. I could keep saying Freedom 55. And I opened
Yeah.
my first health club. And I moved out very young. So this wasn't with family help at 21. So, and it
Wow.
was Crystal's Health and Fitness Spa. And it was for women only. So that is now 34 years.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Congratulations. That really is, a career of inspiration and also healing. I can only imagine the number of women who I know how positively you impacted my life. So how
Mm.
positively you would have impacted all those hundreds and thousands of women. So thank you, of course, for the work that you do. Now you do have a story. This trauma is not unfamiliar to you. And I think that for the most part, a lot of people who are out in the world doing work to help women or anyone to transform and heal come from an experience that has been lived and has been transformed. I'd love for you to share with listeners a little bit about what your journey, what led you to do this work that you're doing today.
Sure. Thanks, Bonnie. It's I'm sure you experience this too, that you get to a point in your life where you're so not far removed. I don't mean to say it but you're not that story anymore. But it's so important, I think, for other people to know the story so that they understand that you understand. So when I tell the story, I don't mean to come across with like no shock. I like that it doesn't. I sometimes think I just share things so matter of factly that I don't want people to think I'm sharing it just like, oh yeah, and then I moved out and then I was raped and then I was like, I don't mean to blah blah blah
Right.
blah. But that
Right.
is sometimes it's been a series of traumas from the
Yeah.
time I was a very little girl. Um, and truly, like right from like when I think back and think, wow, I had my first traumatic head injury. I was so little, 2 or 3 years old, and I was in the ER having my head stitched up. I was run over by a motorcycle when I was 3 or 4 years old. So that was
Right.
just childhood injuries.
Yeah.
And then my parents split up at 12 and it became very chaotic. And there were, there was sexual abuse. My father moved out. My brother was quite a bully, all of that stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I don't mean to say it like that, but then the sexual abuse started. is a really traumatic, dramatic, dysfunctional relationship with my mother, who I loved and adored, but for some reason she just couldn't love and adore me back. And as I became more of a young woman, it became really toxic. And uh, yeah, from 12 until 15, there was a lot of sexual abuse. And a stranger rape that was like a shocking, and a family sexual abuse that went on for, there was a lot. So at 15, I probably was not the easiest daughter. However, I still think I was. Like, I still think I was getting great marks in school. I was still the star of the different sports teams. Like, I was a well-adjusted, high-functioning child. My mother wasn't.
Yeah.
And I stood up to her a lot, in a, like, I was the mother. Like, I was the responsible mother yelling at my mother. And at 15, she said, "Get out. Like, I don't need you cramping my style anymore." There was a lot of shame in that. I heard you use words like unworthy and unlovable and undeserving. Um, and those stories started coming in and trying to permeate me. But I also had, from a very young beginning, an understanding of something about me that I felt like really special. And I don't know if it was my grandma talking about God and Jesus and stuff that I don't even really adhere to anymore, but it was like, this little light of mine, I got to let it shine, and I'm not going to let anybody blow it out. So I had this, shocked at my parents, but I'm special. But then I just kept having a series of abuses and attacks and assaults. And so at 15, I moved out. I was kind of homeless for 3 years, although I never called myself homeless, but I really had my clothes in a black garbage bag. And I moved from place to place, and slept on couches. And then finally at 18, I I circled back around to my mother, who was, and I just started another path. And I moved back in for a very short period of time at 18, tried to help my mother again. I was always trying to help my mother.
Yeah.
And my mother then couldn't handle my 12-year-old sister. So at that point, it was either the decision to take my scholarship to university or let my sister move in with me, because she was 12. And I knew she was going to start experiencing the abuse. And instead of taking the scholarship, I moved my sister in. So at 18, I became a mother. At 21, I was already driven. I'm going to open a business. I was already negotiating. I didn't think, I was soaring, but I was so broken and wounded, but didn't acknowledge any of it. It hit when I had children. I got pregnant. I got married at 21. I was just like, I was on a fast track.
Yeah.
And at 24, I got pregnant on purposefully, because all I wanted was a baby to love me. I'd already now competed in the Miss Galaxy. I'd won the Ontario bodybuild. I was an overachiever. I overcompensated, and I was raised in a very Barbie doll mentality. So I overcompensated all the abuse to understand I had a power over men. I had a power of, it's like it was false bravado, but it saved me.
Yeah.
But then I had children and I gained 100 pounds. And then I was like, I understood now all the women that you're like, just eat tuna and egg whites. And you were like, what? Like, that is not what this is about. So then the weight gain was the cracking open. And I realized the weight made me feel really safe. And I felt really protected. And I felt like I was really going to be a better mother. And I really had to make a lot of peace with understanding. That's when I really started understanding that I felt it, like I have these different parts, and I had this mother energy that wanted to be so selfless and be the mother I needed for my daughters. And she was a chubby bubby, and she's a bit of a martyr, and she's a busy bee, and she's all those archetypes. And I was so scared and horrified that my daughter energy could ever sneak out of my subconscious basement, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I lived so much trying to keep my shadow, my daughter energy, my charmer, my warrior, my addict, my victim. I tried so hard to keep her buried. But then by the time I turned about 30 and I lost the weight and I left my husband and I left it all, for a little while, daughter energy just flew out of the basement, and she was like, "We're gonna do me." And then finally, by the time I was about 33, I hunkered back down, wrote my first book, which was Simply Woman, and got a 3-book deal with Hay House. And I was
Yeah.
off to the races. And that was amazing. And then for like for like 15 years until I was in my late 40s. I was, but then something happened again. And it was the hashtag Me Too movement in
Mhm.
2018. And it was the political craziness that was going on in the world. And it was the divide that then happened with COVID. And Chubby Bubby came back and I put on another 60 pounds. But at this time, I also started drinking my wine. I started like,
Oh, yeah.
and it was time. So I had another breakthrough again. I know this was a really long intro.
No, it's so good.
There was just a lot of crazy. And it was in the last 5 years, I feel like I had another lost 55 pounds, doing it all the same woman energy way.
Yeah.
So much healing around the trauma, so much healing. And in all of that, there was raising two daughters, and now I'm a grandmother, and I'm remarried, and I've been with him for 18 years married, and like lots of great successes. But Bonnie, the trauma
Yeah.
was I had cervical cancer at 16. I had like, if I just kept giving the list of things, you'd just be like, that's just not possible that someone could have that much. I had a traumatic head injury at 21 that gave me seizures and fractured my skull. And like, I just kept having a series of like, am I karmically, was I a queen in a past life? Like,
Right.
coming after me? Like, what is going
Right.
on here? What is happening? So like, I had to like do some like deep trauma healing.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big part of it. Even for myself, we look at, a big trauma story that just, defined so much, or my sense of self. And, I think for a lot of people, even listening to the show, who are really struggling, who are on this healing journey, and that, feel like it's almost impossible to be able to shift or change their perception, not only of themselves, but how they experience life. And you are the epitome of going, there has been challenge after challenge after challenge, and everything that would have or could have inevitably taken you down, there was a rise of your power that came through that as well, which I think is, a big part for people tuning in to say, this isn't the end of your story. It doesn't, what happened to you does not define who you are. There's something greater inside of you that you need to uncover in recognizing where your potentials really lie. And you are, like I said, you are just the epitome of that.
Thank you.
I know that you've mentioned this, and of course we talked the other day, is of course I have you're a part of my Writer from Within program this year as a guest speaker
Thank you.
with one of the interviews that we did just the other day. And you were saying here, you mentioned about your book, but that's really how your healing journey started. You really dove in and started to do some self-inquiry. Could you share that with listeners, that was like, or what drew you to that?
So I'm thinking we're talking about the other big breakthrough that was 2014, which was the
Yeah,
Emotional Edge.
the
This book.
emotional edge.
So
Yeah.
I had the first book, which was Simply Woman. That was the first bit. I'm just going to grab these because I have 6 of these different books now.
Yeah.
So whoa, I just nearly so Bonnie. Sorry. So
It's
this was
okay.
the first big breakthrough, Simply Woman,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
this was like, wow, that just changed my life. But
Is
then I
is
set
that,
out.
sorry to interrupt you, is that not the one that you spoke about where you had taken just kind of your own journal, you were
Yes.
healing and writing through things, right? That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then
And
that
that
turned
became your
into a
book.
program to help women. And
Yeah.
then Bonnie, I can't believe I'm losing things on my and that turned into a book that Louise Hay picked up with Hay House. And then
Yeah.
I got the Crystal Andrus show, and like, so I was a self-published book. And it
Yeah.
turned into
Yeah.
something. And then this one was, well, when I say the breakthrough on this one was again, there was always conflict with family members. There was always, and I just needed to figure out why, and why do people that look great and have everything, why are they not happy? And why are, like, I just needed to understand it. And I had worked with, when we say thousands of women, thousands and thousands of women. And I really, Bonnie, I started to see it really, like, my brain was patterning, and I was seeing women,
Yeah.
and I'd almost be able to look at them so quickly, almost energetically, and be like, she's in such mother energy right now. She's in such daughter energy right now. Wow, she's in woman energy. And it just became like a little term that I would use. And so when it first started was I was doing a team meeting and I was talking with the team, and we had women from all over the world at the time. We still do. And I said, like, let's say you're doing a sales call. Well, if we didn't call it a sales call, but like a discovery session or whatever you're calling to like sell your courses or your things that each one of us do. That's what we do. There's no shame
Right.
in it. But I was talking to them and I said, don't show up in mother energy. Like, don't be like if somebody's in a different time zone and you would have to get up at 3 a.m. to do it. Don't do it. Pass it on to someone. Don't be in mother energy. And nobody said anything, but it got quiet. And then we were talking, and back then it was no Zoom, no video, so it was all voices. And I said, and like really, really listen to yourself back on your voice, because you want your voice to be in like woman energy. Like, you don't want that daughter energy. You don't want that little girly voice and little yeah. And I said, like, so then I just kept saying different things about daughter energy shows up late and starts fizzles fast, and she's like I just started explaining all these things about how women and daughter energy work. And mother energy overgives and overstays and is the wind beneath everyone else's wings. And then they all said, where are you getting this from? And then I went, I don't know.
I don't know.
Doesn't everyone have that in them? Like, don't you have a mother in you that wants to overgive and take care of everyone and needs to be needed? And don't you have a little girl in you that's like, knows there's an amazing life out there and she wants it, but she doesn't know how to get it? Yeah. Well, when we heal these two opposing, because that's what they are for a lot of us, until we learn how to heal the split, we really do just swing back and forth between these two energies, these two dominant archetypes. That's what I call them. And then I realized I could create a how-to. We could transcend and rise up above these wounded parts, almost like the observer of looking down and being like, let's all become friends, guys. And so I created a concept called working with parts. Amazingly, you see internal family systems. And now I see all of these different trauma-based programs that are all around sort of these working with different parts, understanding that there's the real you. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who does The Body Keeps the Score, talks about sort of under all of the, I used to say this quote word for word, and I haven't said it in probably a couple months. Under the, I could be saying it wrong, forgive me, but it's really the essence is under all the traumatized parts of any person. And we've all been traumatized, like everyone. You just have to have gone through COVID.
Right. Absolutely.
Everyone's been traumatized. Everyone, every child, probably the adults more, because the kids were probably just like, I'm playing with a little baby mask, like my mask on the baby the other day. And she thinks it's funny. We're doing peekaboos. I'm like, the kids weren't traumatized. It was all of us being in Times Square with nobody in it, going like, is this an apocalyptic? Everyone was scared shitless.
Yes.
And so we were all traumatized. We were all in bubbles. We were all afraid, or we weren't. We were fighting it. Everybody was in jail. It was just cuckoo. It was just a cuckoo time. So when I think back, and I think Bessel van der Kolk literally says, this is an MD. This is not even spirituality. But then all of the Buddhist and Hindu and Christianity and all of the other religious philosophies also all say there is an essence that is a part of you that will never die, that was there before you were born, that as you were growing in your mother's womb, before there was a body and arms and a brain yet, there was a you. And Albert Einstein says energy is never lost, it's only transferred. So your energy, it never dies. It just is going to transfer into different forms of that energy. But while you're here on Earth, since you're having this human experience in a container called a body, well, this body has been traumatized. A lot of us have been through physical. And the other thing, I think, we've got to stop seeing the body and brain separately. The central nervous system, it's all one.
Yes.
Well, one thing, everything happening to every part of you at every moment is happening to every part of you at every moment, at every second, in your mind, in your body, in your soul, in your hearing, in your brain, in your cells, in your atoms. It's happening. So even when we talk about chakras, it's not like the energies flow up through the root.
Right.
When it's coming along and, that heart shot. It's like,
it's done. Exactly.
And so if you're short-circuiting because you're not grounded, because you have stories, and you literally feel like my energy isn't steady and stable and high octane, like let's use those words, like gasoline. I don't have high octane fuel flowing through me right now, then I would say then we work on getting your energy stable. And a lot of that is done with your mind.
Mhm. Yeah.
Your mind is like, to me, I'm like, your body is the subconscious. That's what Candace Pert said. And I coach
Yeah.
Candace Pert, the molecules of emotion, Dr. Candace Pert. And I coached her before she passed. And she always said, like, your body is your subconscious mind. And
Absolutely.
then you have your mind, which is like your mind. Well, your brain is in your body. It's all one. And
Yeah.
then your
Yeah.
mind is like, the imagination is as big as the universe. So you've got access to information that's like, whoa, if you knew how to tap into it. And
Right.
then your spirit is like high levels of consciousness. And the spirit is always talking to the body, but the mind gets in the way. So if the mind has corrupted software that you've downloaded because when you were 3,
Right.
your mother and your grandmother and everybody, so you've just been downloading all this software, all this programming, and now your body's trying to go, will you listen to me here? It's not working. We're hurting. And
Yeah.
so if we could start seeing healing as a mind, body, spirit approach, emotionally, energetically, philosophically, physiologically, psychologically, if we could just approach everything in a more holistic way, I don't think trauma would be treated as such a freaky thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm so
Oh,
tired of being like, you were traumatized, so you must be broken forever. I'm not.
well, I think that's a big part of it too, is that there is this belief system or these paradigms that say if you've been traumatized, then they're even for individuals who are on taking the holistic approach and they're on a healing journey, there's always this concept of being broken. And the truth is we're not broken.
We're not
There nothing
broken.
was we've never been
And we don't
broken.
need to be fixed.
Right. And we don't need to be fixed. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about coming into your energy, coming into, as you said, being able to. I love how you say, you said earlier, and I'm sorry if I don't get the words correct, but you talked about how you need to bring balance to what is the daughter energy, the mother energy, how you need to really marry or merge those two parts of you.
And understand the conflict on all the time behind the scenes between them. Like almost seeing them as different parts of you. Like almost imagining like I've got like a couple of kids. And imagine like, okay, you've got 2 kids. And one is a little you've got 3 kids. Okay,
Three.
you got 3 kids. Okay. One is this like challenging child and she's just always crying and she's always whining and she has temper tantrums and she's difficult and she's just a pain in the ass. But you love her. But she is difficult. And then the other one is always giving, always doing, always serving, always loving. Could you imagine saying to one of them, I love you. You get a bedroom upstairs, but you are a bad kid. So you go down in the basement and I'm going to lock the door and get some pit bulls. Like, but that's what we do to ourselves. We take
Right.
parts of us that we go, well, that I want people to know. Or it might be the opposite. I love the side of me that's sexy and charming and fun and dangerous and a little dramatic and my daughter energy. And I'm going to let the world see her. And I'm going to take the part of me that's chubby and fat and boring and overgives and overdoes and is a martyr and serves the world and helps everybody. I'm mortified by my mother energy. I'm going to take her and lock her in the basement. You wouldn't do that to your children, but we do it to parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's like embracing all these parts of you and saying, let's have a family dinner and get to know each other. Because as long as you are mad, like as long as you've got a perfectionist inside of you who is so furious at your rebellious teenager, unconsciously behind the scenes, you're going to have these parts of you that are battling in your brain, in your mind, but your body is going to be in tension and conflict because
Mhm.
it's going to show itself in your body.
Yeah.
And your spirit is just the part of you watching it all going, guys, can't you just get along? I'm taking this all back to the collective. When we get this figured out and body and mind become best
Yeah.
friends, then
Yeah.
spirit's going to soar and we're going to be friends and it's going to be amazing.
Well, it's interesting. One of the things that I often will say, as well, is that the body believes whatever the mind is telling it. Like it's so connected. The
It's
mind
one.
body connection isn't
Even
a
when we
separate
say
connection.
it
It's
believes
one.
it, it's
Exactly.
one.
It's one. It
It's not
absolutely is.
separate. I just want to keep
Yeah.
saying this to people. Like your
Yes.
heartbeat is your mind, is your nervous system, is your fear.
Yes.
It's in your heartbeat. It's in
Yes.
your posture. It's in your muscle tension. Your
Yeah.
nervous system is in your muscle tension.
Yes.
Your level of consciousness shows up in the way you walk through the airport. Mother Energy's got her running shoes on. She's not that I don't wear my running shoes, I do, but I can almost see the mother energy. She's got 8 kids behind her. She's got the thing. She's yelling at everybody. She's got the hats on. She's got every sunscreen. Let's get the sunscreen on. Let's get the and
Right.
so I make jokes. And then the daughter energy's at the bar on her 3rd margarita, and she's gonna miss her plane, and she's gonna be like, I can see. Let's go through the airport, and I just laugh. And then you see one woman that's just walking through, and I just go, bam! I wish you were my
Uh-huh.
best friend. Like,
Yeah.
we should
Yeah.
be besties. Like, but learning to not be intimidated by those amazing women
Yeah.
and seeing that those and not being judgmental. I look back over all the versions of me with love. I do laugh sometimes at like my 210-pound self with my bright red lipstick and my huge big earrings because I was bigger and I felt like I had to do more. And then I'd be smaller. And then I just look at all the versions of me over the years and go,
Yeah.
every version of you was just doing you in the way that you wanted at the time. God bless you all. Thank you for getting me here. You're all amazing. Some of you are a pain in the ass. You're like children. I love you all. We're going to have to learn to get along because when you all understand this, me, Crystal, the woman energy, the wise one here, the confident, calm, curious, capable, competent me can run the show. And she doesn't always run the show because we're human.
Right.
So
Right.
I think of woman energy almost like your highest self, who you get to choose to be. But then there's times where the person pulls out, you're late, you want to scream at them, and then you're like, I'm so in daughter energy right now because I want to race after this person and punch them.
Right. The rebellion comes out in those moments, right? Yeah.
Or I just want to
Yeah.
drink a bottle of wine tonight. I don't want to deal with life. And that's also why,
Yeah.
like, probably around 50, I started doing like my first 30-day alcohol-free challenge. And then I did a 90-day. And then I was like, wow, I can't believe how proud I feel of myself when I feel really good about myself. It's not about the wine. It is the
Right.
wine. The wine is a poison for the brain and the body. So your body is going to be hurting because we all get hangovers. Why
Right.
would we? That's just stupid to act like it doesn't hurt you. It does hurt you.
Right.
Um, Probably the first drink, you like the little fun, but then it just turns into daughter energy overdid it.
Yeah.
Mother energy wouldn't have it, but mother energy would be eating her cookies.
Right.
Daughter energy would be drinking her wine.
Yeah.
And mother energy would be like, can I just make you some good food? Come on, let me just cook for you. Come on, come over. Let me make some good food. So I just think when we learn to love all these parts and then we get a handle on like, but who am I?
Yes.
Like, what do I want underneath it all?
That's
And I
exactly
know
that's
we
a
haven't
great
really done the trauma work yet, but the
right.
trauma work really is accepting the trauma,
Yes.
breathing into it in your body when you feel the trigger and your body starts to race and you want to run. Because that's what happens. It's a body thing. And we don't want to feel it. And the truth is, the work that I teach at my school in the SWAT Institute is that the pressure, it's the pressure of not wanting to feel those negative, low resonating, all the things we call them, lower levels of energy. We hate feeling shame. It's so slow and heavy but the truth is it's part of the human condition, and the reason that we have so much struggle and 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 just all of that is because we do everything in our power to not feel the shame.
Right.
We do everything in our power to not feel guilty. Like even when we're so angry that somebody, we will feel guilty for being angry.
Right. Even in terms of, we can think even in terms of incorporating healthy boundaries into our life, that we know it's necessary to have healthy boundaries in order to have healthy relationships, but we can feel guilty about having the boundary and then
And
begin to second guess ourselves and think we're selfish, and now we're ashamed of the fact that we're not showing up for people in maybe in the ways that we had in the past. It's
yeah,
interesting
and it's
how
all
our
then
tendencies are there.
it's and then the conditioning over what
Yes.
did I learn about being a good woman?
Yeah.
What did I learn about being a good woman? What did I learn about? And then am I willing to accept that I feel guilty that I've outgrown my family. I feel guilty that I get angry every time I get around them because they talk about things that frustrate me and I am angry. So I'd be better to acknowledge that I'm angry than to feel guilty that I'm angry, because anger
Right.
actually resonates much higher. So you'd be better to be like, I am angry. Holy shit, I'm an angry woman.
Yeah.
Whew. I was so
Yeah.
angry and I didn't want to accept it. That's when I was drinking too much. I was eating too
Yes.
much. I was so angry. I had raging, simmering rage under the surface all the time.
Yes.
And it's amazing to think I don't
And that's
anymore.
a really passive energy, right? Because it's like you're fuming on the inside, and yet outside you have this demeanor that everything's calm and everything's great, but in the meantime you are just surging inside, and that energy is toxic. It really is. It's what the Buddhists say, about how
Yes,
we're
like
drinking
literally as you
poison,
say it,
right?
I'm
Right.
so like I know I'm like an actress, but it's like because I actually feel it, like, ugh, you literally have to be like,
Right.
ugh, I have to get that out of me.
Yes. Yes. And I think it's interesting, and this kind of takes maybe in a little bit different direction, but you mentioned it earlier, and it came up now again in what you were sharing. When we look at the familial connections, the family, and we have this, especially in our society, this pressure to, well, that's your family. You need to spend time with your family. We're so conditioned in that family is the most important or a priority for ourselves in our life, that we deprioritize our well-being simply because maybe our family is toxic, maybe they're abusive, maybe they're hurting us. And every time we put ourselves back with them, we're suffering. So we can still love our family. We can still love our family. We don't have to have a relationship where we're showing up and interacting with them. That is a healthy thing as well. And I
And
think,
then you have to deal with the guilt.
right. And then comes the guilt with that, right?
So you have to deal
Exactly.
with the guilt that you're putting yourself first, and that
Yes.
you know that you're not Jesus and you don't have enough of the skills yet to go into all the dark places and stay a shiny bright light.
Right.
You're human.
Yeah.
So if you keep putting yourself in an environment that sucks the life out of you only because you're not skilled in knowing how to not let it suck the life out of you yet, and I'm not,
Yeah.
and
Me
I think
neither.
this,
I
like,
know.
I haven't seen my mother in 18 years.
Yeah.
That's horrific.
Right.
But me, I feel like if she were to reach out, I'd be like, "Oh, hi, okay, mom, okay." But she hates me and she's blocked
Yeah.
me and she writes terrible things about me. And so what am I supposed to do?
Right.
So, yes, when I've had some bouts with serious illnesses, and there's a part of me inside that's like, I need to heal my root chakra. I need to make peace with my mom. I'm going to send her a letter and ask her to forgive me. And then I think, okay, I forgive you, mom.
Mhm.
And in my heart, I know you're broken and wounded. And that's better for me to believe that than to
Yes.
believe that you just hate me. Because I know you don't. I know that that's wounding. So when we talk about family, I think when we've set the boundaries and we've maybe had to take space, and it doesn't mean anything is forever. I think it's important to say to somebody, it doesn't mean forever and a day. And sometimes even helping someone leave a toxic relationship with a love partner. I think sometimes I've had to say to women, I don't know what the future holds. Maybe he is meant to be your forever and ever. Like, you need to almost say that to somebody for them to
Right.
embrace that maybe I need a little break. Because if you actually go, get the hell away from him,
Yeah.
which we never give advice, by the way, we
Right.
always work on energy. And when I say energy, it can get confusing in this day and age. Emotions. So we deal with emotions first and then strategy second. So once we
Yeah.
get you feeling courageous and higher, willing, a willing spirit, where there's a will, there's a way, intentional. Once you get to the place where you know you're really in a willing spirit, You're very intentional about what you want, how you want to feel, how you're going to approach. You're going to go to that family gathering. You know who you are. You've done your spiritual practices. You're so ready for it. You know you're only there for 2 hours. You know you're going to laugh at a lot of things. You're going to let it go in one ear and out the other. Have I gotten to that point yet? No, but I also haven't been invited. So
Right.
do I think I could do it? I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
However, it's easy for me to say, but for probably 20 years, I couldn't,
Mhm.
but I could do amazing work in the world with other women. And so,
Right.
yes, there was guilt. How can I not get it right with my own mother? But I'm helping all of these women all over the world. What's wrong with me? There's shame in that story. So then telling that story to yourself, I'm ashamed that I don't have a good relationship with my mother because that means I'm unlovable. And so
Right.
you have to work through that story and then feel it. And how long have you been feeling this? And like, who would you be if you could just let that go? Oh, I'd be relief. Then let it go. It's not true. Your mother does
Right.
love you. She's broken and wounded.
Right.
That gives me relief. Who would you be if you didn't have to carry the story around forever that you're tainted because you lost your virginity in a stranger rape? Not that it would have mattered if it was a different rape, but even the fact that I say stranger rape
Right.
to delineate my rapes. How many of them were there? Like the shame of that. Did I ever tell anyone that story? Do you know that I got married? My first husband didn't even know I'd been sexually abused, let alone stranger rape, let alone all the rapes, let alone any of the abuse. Hid it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too with my husband. He didn't know for probably, oh my gosh, I
Years.
would say years. It was years, probably half our marriage. We were already 15, 18 years into our relationship where my story really started to come out. He's still surprised when he starts to hear the things today. He's just like, "What? What are,
No. Because
it's
we
shocking,
also were
right?
raised in a
Yes.
very white Anglo-Saxon, doesn't matter if you're Protestant or
Mhm.
Catholic. We were raised in a
Yeah.
WASP culture, which is different than different cultures. But I will tell you this, it's women all over the world going through this. It doesn't matter your culture. But in our culture, we really were raised that
Mhm.
what goes on in the family stays in the family.
Yes.
Loyalty is everything. Blood is thicker than water.
Mhm.
And you suck it up, buttercup. But then you think about, like, I realize now that I've been an extremely sensitive soul, which I finally embrace
Yeah.
from the time I was little, which meant I felt everything.
Yeah.
I felt everyone's emotions around me. I knew when people were upset. I knew when people were happy. I felt, we all do, but I it never left me. And so as I grew, just like you, Bonnie, you're a medium, you tap into things. I didn't know what that was because I was in
Right.
such a religious that it was like that would be evil. So I couldn't acknowledge that I had, like, really, I'd actually think to myself, do I see things before they happen, or do I just am I able to will things into being? And then I
Right.
thought, but I see a lot of things in dreams and I
Mhm.
have ideas about things and then I make them happen. And sometimes they happen almost like a deja vu where I'm like, this is happening exactly how I saw it.
Yeah.
So I started opening myself up to the possibility that there's more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe that. And
Mhm.
that is my spirituality, that I know there's so much more than meets the eye and it's a beautiful, loving universe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people, I love Dr. David Hawkins' work, his map of consciousness. And I know this one of his books, the Letting Go or Surrender. I love some of his books. They're heady, they're hard, but I love them.
Yes.
And I love that when I finally clicked into this, it helped me. Even with like elections and politics, it helps me because whatever side you think you're on, he says 78% of the world are below the level of courage. So they're living in their ego, they're living in their smaller self. 78% of the world collectively. And he says 49% of Americans are still resonating under courage. So whatever side you think you on, it doesn't matter. The point is, we don't live in a world yet where there's a lot of really high resonating women who are really resonating in really truly high levels of consciousness where they've broken free of patriarchy and
Yeah.
internalized misogyny and like a lot of indoctrinated beliefs. They haven't done the actual work of like dissecting them and seeing
Yeah.
that they don't make sense. And I've been following a set of beliefs that aren't logical. They don't make sense to me. So I'm going to let them go. And I'm served so much better by letting them go. So you need to have people who are more educated than you around you, or more spiritual than you around you. You need a community of people that lift you up, that remind you, because for the 49% of Americans that hopefully are, those are your people. You want to, or your Canadians or the world. So
Yeah.
you want to find the people that are like, but they do love the woo woo.
Right.
Why not
Right.
find those people? Because they're going to
Right.
believe in something beyond the five senses. And that's what's always going to separate us from AI. That's what I say all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
AI can only reach, if I just think map of consciousness, and you think like he has every sort of energy calibrated. And he says reason resonates at 400, which would be like a very reasonable computer. Could be like, but then there's this jump just above reason, which is love. And love opens you up to an energy field that is so magical and intuitive, and it's so inclusive. And it, when you tap into that level of energy, ideas came that you never had before. You love yourself, you love all people, you even love your enemies in a weird way. You're like, oh, wounded, but I don't need them around me, but God, I hope they could get good care in jail.
Right.
I really hope they do a good reform system with the reform system on the jails. They need to be there, but I hope they get some love.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of boundaries. It's not that much work, believe it or not. It's a click, click, click.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be that fast. And then it's
Yeah.
just checking in with yourself. Who's showing up right now? And if you don't know, you don't have to say, well, what would Bonnie's woman energy do? Or what would Crystal's woman energy do? Or what would Louise Hayes do? Or Oprah's, or whoever is your person. You would say, okay, what would my mother energy do? And you're always going to know she's going to be the most selfless part of you. And then you could say to yourself, and you're a little chuckle and have a laugh at yourself, what would my daughter energy do? And she's going to do the most selfish thing.
Right.
And then your woman energy is going to be this sort of your fully integrated self. So she's always just going to be somewhere in the middle for now. And that's probably the route you should take.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Crystal, this is so informative and so inspiring. And as always, the conversations go by incredibly quickly. And I just want to say thank you. You know, your wisdom, your sharing your journey and your perspective of this, and really how we can take and redefine a sense of ourself by really accepting all parts of who we are, the light and the dark, the shadows, as well as, you know, what we see as good or positive. And it is allowing for space for all those parts of us, that humanity, those parts that maybe have been neglected, avoided, abandoned in some way, even by ourselves, and
And
bringing
Bonnie,
them
I'm going to
into
tell you
wholeness.
something really quick. You want to know
Yeah.
the parts that we abandon the most? I think a lot of us think it's all the wounded parts. It's your beauty.
Yeah.
It's your brilliance. It's your gorgeousness. It's your juiciness. It's your deliciousness. It's your pleasure. It's your sexuality. It's your creativity. That's, most of us have buried all that deep in the basement. And when you give yourself permission to be sensitive again and sensual, meaning the senses, to feel, to touch, to feel cream on your skin, to feel good food in your belly, to taste things, to turn off the TV, the world wakes up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
The
my
good
gosh, so
stuff.
good.
The good
Yeah, good
stuff.
stuff. The good stuff. Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, I want to just make sure to highlight for those who are interested in learning more about Crystal, in working maybe alongside Crystal. I want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about the woman energy that you have coming out on the SWAT Institute website, for those who are interested in learning more and maybe working with you. And you've got some phenomenal programs, just like I was able to do with you all those years ago, that really, really helped me to
I
step
look at
into
the fabulous
yourself.
picture. Look at the picture.
I
Of the
know.
green and the
So good.
purple. And I wore it here today. And I
Yeah.
actually, we're just getting launched this weekend, a woman
Awesome.
energy activation. So unfortunately, I can't believe I wasn't even putting two and two together. I'm on the podcast today. I should have had it ready for today. However, there's at least a thing that says it's coming soon. So go to the SWATinstitute.com, go to the website, and then at least sign up for our free mentorship coaching. Empowerment coaching. These women have been studying with me for hundreds of hours before they are ready to mentor other women. And then they have 30 practice coaching calls with real women in the world. You can have up to 6 calls with one coach. It's no charge. So sign up for that. Get on
Yeah.
the site, sign up for that, get in my world, and then you'll get a little email in the next couple of days to say the woman energy activation class is coming in the next couple of days. So I hope that our journey continues on together.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I can't say enough about, about well, not only what the work that you've done over the years and how it really inspired and helped and supported me in coming forward,
Thank
but
you.
I'm just in awe of the amount of women globally that are so positively impacted by your message, like what you shared here today, but also of course through the work that you do. So thank you, Crystal,
Thank you.
for showing up and being you and allowing all of us the privilege to sit and be within your presence here today. So
Oh,
yeah, thank you.
Bonnie. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely,
You too.
absolutely.
You are a golden
Yeah,
girl. So our
thank
energy
you.
is connecting and finding each other. And so let's
Yeah.
just keep that energy flowing.
Absolutely. And of course, to everyone who has tuned in today's show, thank you so much for being here. If there was something that really stood out on this episode that you feel would be helpful for someone that you love, please do share this episode with your friends, your family, your BFFs. And of course, we'd love to hear from you as well. So if it helped you in any way to really transform or help empower you to take a positive step forward on your journey, then I'd love to hear from you. Remember, please subscribe on all your favorite platforms, and I will be here again next week, same time, same place. Until then, sweet friends, bye for now.